Greetings, everybody. That did not just do that, but greetings, everybody. This is Calvin Ward. I'm here with you on tonight. I have a special guest, James O'Connor, who's with me on tonight, and we're going to get into a powerful interview. What I need you to do is share this link. I need you to share the video with someone. We're going live on YouTube, and so we're going to get into a powerful interview. It's going to be an hour, and we're going to be talking with Chaplain and singer and songwriter James O'Connor. So please tune in, and we'll be back right after this. James, greetings to you on this evening. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing just fine, Chaplain. It's good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. No, thank you. And I forgot to ask you, where are you coming to us from? What area? Where do you live?
Well, it's a long, twisted story, but right now I'm a digital nomad in New Jersey.
in New Jersey, you said digital nomad.
Yeah, because my home is Tennessee, but I came up here for the summer to spend time with my fiance, and we had a lot of trips planned. So right now, for the time being, I'm in New Jersey. But my plates are still Tennessee, and my license is still Tennessee. So I live right outside of Nashville. So
okay, awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, let's get right into this. And thank you for your time. I always love it when people take time to talk and chat. Can we just talk a little bit? I'm gonna ask you a little bit about your personal background. Can you tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up? You know, what part of the country you grew up, or what country you grew up in, and tell us a little bit about your personal life.
Sure. So grew up with 9 people in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. I'm one of 7 kids. And it was very, very humble beginnings in West Orange, New Jersey. And, we learned a lot about, values and morality and hard work and responsibility. The paper route came on when I don't even remember how old. I was very young. And then, caddying and working all kinds of jobs. So that's one thing my father instilled in all of us, was a tremendous work ethic. So anyway, a long path to get to the singer-songwriter. I was actually started as a comic in 7th and 8th grade, to the point where in 8th grade, Mrs. Reinhardt, my English teacher, used to have me take the last 5 minutes of every class on Friday afternoon, and I would get up and do 5 minutes of stand-up. And it got to where the other teachers were out in the hallway, like grouping around this little tiny glass pane window door to take turns looking in to see, what is this guy doing? What is this act he's doing? So I guess that started my entertainment chops, and I grew into a singer-songwriter in my late teens, early 20s, and ended up taking the journey to Nashville, Tennessee, and did my first full-length album on Music Row. And that's after doing many studios. I was in LA like 5 times, working in studios there, all over sort of the Northeast, doing projects, playing gigs. playing bands, playing anything I could, playing out solo. And eventually the Lord led me to be a Christian singer-songwriter without me even knowing it.
Oh
So
wow.
so that happened. That happened along the journey of meeting Archbishop Christine Mercy Johnson, and we met about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and it was uh, it was really something. She had a book out, and when I met her, I had just started this idea of writing branded songs for authors, and so she said, "Well, we talked about meeting because we knew we had some kind of reason to get together to meet." And she said, "Before we do, I need you to read my book," which I did. And I immediately wrote a song about her journey to heaven. And it was called Come. So I ended up, I think she was in Florida at the time. And I flew down there. I played the song for her. And she was like really impressed with what we had there. And then she helped me fine tune it to be exactly what it was supposed to be. And then all of a sudden, we ended up in Nashville not 2 or 3 weeks later, recording this song. And I had already had a rich history with the musicians that worked on my previous records. And so it was very easy to tap my producer on the shoulder and say, "Get the guys together and can we do this?" And the dates just fell right into place. So we ended up in the studio, and the remarkable thing about this song was this song sounds like it's something that took months or even a year to work on to get it to where it was supposed to sound like. And it happened in just like a few hours. And
Oh wow.
I'll never forget the guys looking around the studio at each other going, "What is going on here? Like, how is this thing like just coming together so seamlessly, so effortlessly, without any, like struggling?" And sometimes that's what happens. It's like, and then you shelf it and you come back and you keep taking a swing until, it either flies or it doesn't. But that didn't happen in this case. So when we finished the recording, I remember going out to a park with her we're just like sort of doing a little walking tour of the Music Row area. And we sat down at this park bench and she said, "The Lord is talking to me. Please get your notebook out, get your notebook out." So sat down and I just scribbled for like 30 minutes and he gave us a whole album. So essentially we went back weeks later. I came home and started doing demos in my studio, and then I would send them to Christine and she would listen and make comments and say, "No, let's change this and that." So we ended up with this album called I Am Victorious. And it's all about the last days of Jesus, those last days with the apostles and right up to the Garden of Gethsemane, and him going to the cross and what happened on the cross. That's all recorded in a very rich musical experience.
Awesome.
So
So let me ask you, because you said something that was key. Now you're a musician, you're a songwriter, and you love music. What do you mean by you said you became a Christian artist by accident? So, because I love music, right? I
right.
love music. I do it. I tell people I play a little bit and don't be listen. I'm gonna say this: people watching this, don't be calling me, don't be asking me to play nothing. So I play a little bit of piano. When I was in high school, I played a couple of instruments, but now I play more piano better, right? But I'm more of a writer, like I'm more of a songwriter or a writer with music. And so when you talk about you became a Christian artist by accident, what does that mean?
Okay, that's a great question. So here's how I'll feel that. I was raised typical Irish Catholic school, you know, uh, didn't get my hands whacked with the ruler, but I had some other things happen to me, like, you know, some beatings, if you will. But
Exactly.
but what happened was, I got driven away from church as a young adult. And a teenager, I was so turned off by the idea of church. Now,
Mm,
what happened was, around, I guess, when I was in my late teens, or I'm sorry, late 20s, maybe early 30s, I started reading the Bible, and I was sort of like just getting into it more and more and reading. And I had this insatiable thirst for more knowledge about the Lord. And I didn't know where this was coming from, or it didn't even relate to music. Well, I shouldn't say that. It did, because I wrote a song called War of the World when I think I was 32 or 33 was when Jesus died, 33. So that's when I wrote the song to honor him, because I said, and it was all about his adventures in the desert, the 40 days and 40 nights with Satan that tugging at his elbow the whole time.
Mm.
So it was called War of the World because it was the most powerful war ever fought in human history. But just because there was bombs not dropping and all that doesn't mean it wasn't one of the most important things that happened. So as I started to get more and more interested, and my writing started to have more and more of God in it. Around this time, I guess, or fast forward a few years, when I had met Dr. Christine, she had talked to me about a lot of things, homelessness, a lot of different things that I wasn't really paying attention to. So at one point when we were having counsel with the Lord, she said, he wants you to go to a Baptist church. And I said, okay. So I looked online. I found this great Baptist church it's called Lincoln Gardens, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset County, I believe it is. And man, I went in there and my jaw hit the floor when I saw what was going on in this church. My goodness. They had the catwalks and the lights and the sound system, and any one of those people that were performing or praising on the stage could have been like mopped the floor up with a voice. Any one of them could have won everything there. And the chaplain or the pastor, he could hold his own with any of the best stand-up comedians. The guy was so good at delivering. And I just I never felt so welcome in my life. So long story short is I ended up getting baptized. It took me about 3 or 4 months, and I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. So I went for the training and I got baptized, the real baptism. And I was really happy to be, a Baptist. And I feel like I can go anywhere, to any church, to any, like, again, it's been said that the building has nothing to do with the church. The church is all, it's the spirit of the mind and your commitment to the Lord. That's where we all join and become a church. So it was just another rung on the ladder for me to say, I feel like I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer all the
Right,
time.
right, right.
And so the Lord started, when I started working with Dr. Christine, I don't hear the Lord like she does, but I do feel him. And like when I sit down to work on something, I know where it's coming from. And it's like, I could not be writing this caliber of work without some kind of spiritual guidance. So when I say I didn't intentionally, I wasn't listening to Christian radio and saying, yeah, I want to be like Chris Tomlin, or I want to be like this. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just like doing my thing, like, what I knew how to do.
Got a question for you. So, what do you say? I have to ask you. So, what do you say to musicians and people who do that? Right? If it's something that's a call, have you seen people, or have you heard of people? Have people say, "Oh my gosh, I heard so and so and so," and then they just mimic and say, "I want to be like so and so and so," or "I want to be like this artist." And I know you work with a lot of artists. I have to insert that question in there. How do you help artists? What type of conversations have you had with artists to help them find themselves and not be a copycat artist? To say, look, don't copy people. Be who you are, who God has called you to be.
That's exactly what I tell them. Be who you are. Be yourself. And I taught this to my son when he was very young, and he's a very successful singer-songwriter in Austin, Texas. And he is so prolific. He's the author of at least 2 full bands where he writes all the material, fronts the vocals, lead guitar, all the way down the line. And then he plays in a bunch of other bands. But I taught that to him as a youngster growing up, just like never ever feel like you're uncomfortable in your own skin. You have to keep digging and saying, who am I in this thing? And it's okay to model after other artists. We all do that. I was a big fan of British rock when I was growing up, and I loved all that stuff. But British rock was really those were all the recipients of listening to the blues, and mostly R&B and blues, and the famous, great guys from the South, like, Muddy Waters and all those guys. All the Brits were listening to that growing up. So they recycled it all and sent it back to America. So then along comes me, and I'm like recycling it again, and I'm writing something. So it's all good. It transforms, it mixes and matches. But I think you have to. I remember I had this young girl call me up, and she was a Christian girl, and she was really upset because her parents kept saying to her, when are you going to get this music thing out of your system? Like, you're 25 now or 26. She was so young. And, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And I said to her, there is no timetable whatsoever when it comes to music. You don't have to be rich and famous. As a matter of fact, that probably has more of a chance to destroy your music than it does to enhance it. So you do whatever you have to do. You get a job, you work your job. I became an electrical contractor so I could fund my music career. And it's like you get to hang on to that for your entire life and keep growing in it and growing in it. And if you do decide the path of a professional musician, whatever that is, whether it's a writer, whether you're playing in a gig somewhere and you're in a band, whatever, I mean, just be glued to what is important to you inside and be able to get up every day and say, I love what I do. And you don't have to answer to anybody. You just need to pay your bills. And you can do that. You can do that very easily. So we get all caught up in Instagram likes and all of this crazy stuff, which has nothing to do with authentic artistry. And your first and foremost mission in your life as a musician is to be authentic to your artistry and be 100% authentic and be honest with it. And then whatever happens will be great, as long as you're committed to it. So I've learned a lot from having people on my show. I've learned so much from artists around the world.
That's like almost a statement. I like to write. We're just talking here, so I get to say a couple of things, and I'm a writer. I've been writing since I was in high school and was published. So I like to write. English, contrary to popular, I loved English. So that wasn't some people's favorite subject. They did not like English, but I liked it. And since we're on the topic of music, I was told some years ago, they was like, no, you need to get into songwriting. I'm curious to know your take on this. They said, no. They said, you need to get into songwriting because that's where the money is. That's what they, that's what they took. They said, that's where the money is. You make more money, in the songwriting. And I find that interesting because you also said, do what you do. If you're thinking about writing, if you love to write, God has put that in your heart. You wake up in the morning, you like to write, you sing, do what it is that you do. But like you said, you have to find a way to live life. There are some people that live their passion, but their life is a detriment because they're following, a pipe dream. But there needs to be some balance there. What do you say about the songwriter? I'm backing that up. So have you heard that before? Is that true? What do you say about the part, or what's your comment on songwriting pays more money than actual publication or producing music? In your experience, which one of the two?
Well, right now is a very difficult time for people to make money because the streaming took over. So the 70s and 80s are gone forever, and so people have to learn how to figure out how to make a living with what they have. And for a lot of artists, the last bastion to capitalism was performing live. And the pandemic took that away, but now it's coming back. Thank the Lord for that. It's coming back slowly, but it is coming back. So I think what you have to do is, if you're committed to this as your livelihood, you have to figure out every angle to how can I do this? How can I make money? And so it's Spotify, how to embrace Spotify and leverage that. It's playing house concerts. It's playing, club gigs or whatever gigs you can get. And there's so many avenues to go. But as far as writing, it used to be that you could try to get a gig as a house writer. And even those days are kind of gone because everybody kind of writes their own material. And I don't really know enough about that world. I've talked to a few people about it, and I contemplated at one point in my career.
Is that like a ghost writer? Is that like a ghost writer, like writing for other people and other artists?
Yeah, you turn all your stuff over to them and just say, here it is. I agreed to write, 20 songs a week or whatever it is. And I can't do that. I mean, when I first picked up the guitar, I picked it up late, seriously. I think I was 20 or 21, and I was relentless with it. I just started playing like after work. I would play at least 8 hours a day, at least 7 days a week. And I immediately started writing songs, and I was obsessed with it. And I realized I knew nothing about music, but I knew how to write songs. It was an intuitive gift from the Lord. I just knew how to do this. And I felt that was a very, very natural thing. So I was a very prolific writer. And as I've gotten older, I started slowing down as far as I don't write nearly the amount of volume, but I think I write better work now. And I take my time on my songs. I mean, I'll pull things out like I did yesterday, and I say, wow, this one that I'm just pulling out and I'm rehearsing it and working on it, I wrote that a year ago. And it's just starting to get like mature enough to say, yeah, this one is, I'm going to record this because it's got legs. It made it through the time period. and so writing, if you love writing, you should write. And it's not for everyone, but it's certainly, like I have a collaborative open door policy when I go to Nashville. Like I go in there with really well thought out, I think well crafted songs that I have the intro down, the bridge is where it's supposed to be, the ending is where it's supposed to be, and I do it all just with acoustic guitar and voice, nothing else laid down. And so the reason I do that is when you're working with really talented musicians who have like libraries and catalogs of decades of experience playing with the best of the best, wouldn't you want to tap into that instead of, hey, yeah, I wrote the bass part and I wrote the piano part and I wrote, you want them to interpret the song in its most pure form to say, what can I bring to this? Because it's a bright virgin canvas with only a little bit of paint on it. And so start filling in, guys, grab your brush. So I'm all about like, hey, listen, it's open door. If you have an idea, I love hearing your ideas. Just lay it on me. What do you got? And we try it out. And you get the best songs that way. When you embrace the talents of others, it's just wonderful. It really is. So I figure if I work really, really hard to do the best job on this basic song and then present it, and it has to be where the song is good enough where you can just sit down with one instrument and play it, and somebody will go, yeah, that's a good song. But you bring it to really, really great people, a good song becomes a great song. So
is that really why? So is that why the acoustic guitar? When I was a kid, my dad I had a guitar when I was a kid, and I told myself I was going to play it. I absolutely love the sound. And when you hear a good acoustic, there are so many songs that people have redone. You hear a song and it's been laid out, multi-track, and then you hear an artist do it with just the acoustic guitar, and it's like, what in the world are they singing that song? Where did that come from? And it's just like, that's all you need. And so I totally understand what you're saying. I always, I'm gonna call it the jam session. Like when you get in, people just pick up instruments and flow with it. Everybody's in there sharing their gifts, because I do believe you get some of the best songs out of that. And sometimes I call it a jam session, right? I think the jam session is all worth it, because sometimes just getting people together to play your instrument, it's like, it's a relief, and it's almost like, therapy to the soul. I'm gonna ask you this about music before I transition. What do you think music is for the soul? What does music do for you, your spirit, for your soul, your relationship with God? But what does music do for you? I know what it is to me, but what is music for you? What is that music for the artist? But what is that music for you?
Okay, so I just finished this book called 7 Steps to Mental Freedom, and I realized that a lot of the artists who came on my show are very depressed. And to answer your question, what does music do for me? It literally saved my life, because I really struggle with depression. I grew up with some really difficult circumstances. I had some, abusive things happen to me in my past. And I had a lot of things that I was dealing with that I didn't even know I was dealing with them, because it was kind of under the surface. And so music was the one therapy that I turned to that made everything okay. no matter what was going on, no matter what demons I was battling, when I turned to the guitar and to songwriting and singing, it cured everything for me. I mean, it was a way that the Lord, I guess, saved me through music. And I always say, music is one of God's great gifts, along with love and family. Music is right up there. It just does so much for your soul and your spirit, and it also influences other people to do the same. To be like reaching out through
Right.
music. You don't even have to talk sometimes if you just sit down and jam, like you were saying about jamming with somebody. You
Yeah,
know,
yes, I
there's
agree.
that there's that there's that transmitting of energy that nothing has to be said because you can feel it. And getting back to your point also, Reverend Calvin, Chaplain Calvin, about the acoustic guitar. The reason that's such a great instrument is because it has the drums built into it. It has percussion. It has like melodies and counter melodies. It's got rhythm. It's got everything in there. So if you don't have the luxury of the band around you, man, acoustic guitar is a way to figure out what is the song telling me. Where am I supposed to go with this?
I think it's, you know what, I wish I'd have grabbed it when I was smaller. Now it's like a difficult instrument for me. I don't know how I look at the keyboard or the piano as an easier instrument for me than a guitar, but I don't, I don't know if it's just my mind. But you know what? I tell myself, because that's one of the things that I want to do later is still like you were talking about. If this is a passion that you have, you don't have to be famous. Do what you do. If
Yeah,
it's a gift God has given you, who are you waiting on? Who
right.
are we? Who are we waiting on to express the gifts that God has given us?
Yeah,
Express it and share it, and somebody's going to listen to it. It's gonna change somebody's life. It's going to affect somebody's life. I want to ask you this because you've had I know right now you're engaged. You got two awesome sons, two grandchildren, one on the way. You're living life, James. You're living
yes,
life. You're living
yes, I
life.
am.
Awesome. And so, but it wasn't. I'm quite sure you weren't always, as they say, on the mountaintop. Can you share? Because I know you talked about going through the process of dementia with your mom, and I know you do some things with prison ministry. But and then you came into the chaplaincy in 2020. Can you tell us about some experiences? Because I don't know if I'm gonna ask the question about chaplaincy, and you're gonna take us back. But did any of your life experiences bring you to want to be a chaplain? And can you tell us about some of your experiences, some of those valley experiences in life that helped to make you who you are?
Yeah, I remember growing up, and I guess I was like 17 or 18. I spent a time living in my car, living in the Shell station ladies' room, a complete nomad, trying to find myself. The circumstances they were kind of extenuating, going back to, rough times growing up and not being treated as the best that I could have been treated. So I was trying to find my place in the world. And I guess it took me all the years of, raising a family, starting a business. And it took a long time before I finally realized, I think when I did my first prison tour, which was me going into a prison
Oh
and
wow.
performing, not doing time, but performing for prisoners. So let's just be explicit about what the tour was. And and so when I came out of there, the first time I ever played, I said, this is the most rewarding gig I've ever done in my life, because I could tell by the looks on the prisoner's face when I came in there. I had a bunch of guys who were really hardcore who were sitting up front, and they were talking while I was playing, and then while I'm telling stories, they were still talking. Then little by little, they started to calm down. Then they got quiet, and then by the end of the whole thing, I had them. I had them all. And believe it or not, all these guys in orange jumpsuits came up to me and shook my hand and thanked me for inspiring and whatever. But I was telling stories about me and my car, tough times growing up. working things that happened to me. And I was also telling them stories about Jesus, like, what he went through. So I kind of intermingled the music with the stories, and they found it rather entertaining. So what I discovered was, this is the place for me. I'd much rather play in a place like that and have an opportunity to make somebody curious about their, future life, their spiritual life, because most of us don't think about that. We just think, we act like we're going to be here forever, and we're not going to be. We're here for such a short time. So God put it in my heart to say, your mission is to make people curious, because look how long it took me. It took me decades to get to the point, and I'm coming to that point of why I became a chaplain. And Dr. Christine, Archbishop Christine, she had said to me, I think you should become a chaplain. This is about a year and a half ago, I guess. And I said, nah, I don't think that's really for me. And I kept thinking about it. And she insisted. She said, no, I think you should really do this, because it'll help serve your purpose, which is when you're going out doing this prison ministry, going into prisons, it's credibility and it's this and that. And it's a lot, as we know, as chaplains now, it's much deeper than that.
Right.
But it was almost like the Lord was like doing this. Will you wake up? I'm giving you a gift here that's so special. And you're going, nah, I don't really,
Right.
but I didn't feel really worthy of it, to tell you the truth. And now, after, being more educated and spending time learning about, what is my mission here? What am I doing here? What am I here in this world for? And you got to keep asking that question to stay on track. And I ask the Lord every day for, give me guidance, help me, be a blessing to somebody, help me write the right song. Where am I going to play? Those kind of things. And it's all becoming more focused now. I can see it more clearly. So it wasn't that I had aspirations, except maybe for 10 minutes as a third grader, I wanted to be a priest, but that didn't last long. And then, so I've come full circle, and now I'm back, and I guess I'm some sort of clergy.
So how did you get that? Because I love prison ministry. I love prison ministry. Whether, just going in, you minister, of course, they give you, but they give you information, give you the protocols, you go in. But I just love being in an environment where people appreciate what you're bringing to the table, where people are grateful that somebody remembers them. Somebody remembered they were here. You remembered me. You came to me. You're sharing this with me, and you don't know me. And just coming in and just share with people. How did you get the connection as an artist? Because there may be someone out there that has that gift that wants to share. How did you get this connection in going into prisons to play your music in the first place? And now you're a chaplain, and now it all combines because you get to do it all at the same time. But how did you initially start going into prisons? What door was open for you? How did that happen?
Well, as always, the Lord set all this up for me. So it was it was a seamless, superfluous, series of events that I didn't really have to do too much. I have a dear friend who's an entertainment agent who works for, like, the likes of Bon Jovi and Springsteen, and like he's up there. And we became friendly through my podcast a few years back. And when I was having conversation with Archbishop Christine, at one point she was in a dialogue with the Lord, and she was sharing her conversation about the Lord had said how important it is for prisoners to know that they are not lost. They are not counted out. And this was very shocking to me, because I never gave it much thought. But the way he described it was, every one of those people in those prisons, they need to be cared for. They need to know that I have not forgotten any of them. The door is open to everyone. And, that stayed in, he put that on my heart. I mean, that struck me like a bullet as she's telling me this. I mean, it took me like 2 or 3 years after that to recircle back when I moved to Nashville to my friend Eugene Foley, entertainment agent. And I called him up. I said, Eugene, I said, you're going to help me get back out on the trail of doing gigs, and we're going to do this and that. But I said, more important than that, if you could help me start getting on the path to doing some prison ministry, and I have my set list done, I'm all rehearsed, I'm ready to go, the PA and all that. And he said, yeah, let me see what I can do. So this is the funny part. He calls me back the next day. He had just moved his family from New Jersey to Virginia, and he said, and he coaches basketball after school with the kids. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I made a couple of calls. He goes, I talked to my one friend who's a coach who coaches with me, and he's a prison warden. And by the way, his wife is also a prison warden at another prison.
Oh, wow.
So he set me up on a tour to do both of these prisons in Virginia. And that's how the whole thing started, just through, and, it's, once again, it's, the Lord sets things up for you. He sets the table. All you need to do is sit down and eat the meal. And I feasted, my friend. So, so that's how we kicked it all off. And I'm still learning about it. We have this wonderful man in our group, the IFCC, Johnson Corp, who is Diego Diaz, as you know, and I'll be tapping him on the shoulder. We already had one conversation, but he's a veteran of Rikers Island as a prison guard. I mean, he talk about knowing the prison world. He knows it better than me 10 times back and forth. So I'm going to be reaching out to people like Chaplain Diaz for help to say, I'm interested in targeting these areas and these areas on continuing this thing, because the pandemic sort of shut it down, and now I'm ready to open it up again. And God willing, that's what we're going to do. But that's what it was. It was really about a conversation. And I, that and the homeless thing was another thing that Archbishop Christine, and that's another thing she taught me about the homeless, which I didn't think about. And that one, again, like struck me, so hard that I started going to places where, they have shelters and so forth, and I'd bring desserts in. And then I started going to the Nashville Rescue Mission, and I would go every Sunday morning. I'd be up at 4:30, I think it is. And I would drive down there, and I would end up serving on a line, serving breakfast to men who would come in like you would not even imagine the condition of these men coming in. Some without arms, some without legs, some without socks, some with socks on, some in rags, and all walks of life. Prisoners, every race, color, creed. Guys who are ex-criminals, ex-prisoners, ex-military, and talk about a humbling experience. But it became my church. It was like we had this wonderful gentleman who ran the kitchen, and he would gather the participants, which are the guys who are in the program who work in the kitchen, and the volunteers, which would be me and whoever else volunteered. And we'd all go in a circle, and we'd talk, we'd say a little prayer about what am I grateful for today. And one of the most grateful things for me was being there, because when I would leave there, I would feel like, I did so much more. I gave so much more value. And I used to say to them, as much value as you think I provided here today, I'm taking away a lot more than I brought, because you can't imagine how it feels to be able to help out and just pitch in. I'm a healthy guy. I don't need to be laying in bed, on Sunday morning, because, I should be here doing something productive and helping people out. So all of these things are, again, they're more rungs on the ladder as far as climbing up to the top of that next plateau to see, what has God left for me here now? Because you get to one plateau, and then, there's something awaiting another challenge to go to the next one. And it's all about gathering experience and learning about, what is my place in this world? So like the Lord said to me, you are a Christian chaplain whose ministry is music. And I want you to captivate, capture, and lead to the cross. And those were his words, not to me, but to Christine, to that's my mission, to be here in this world, to do these things. So I'm very happy to, that I was patient enough that he watched over me with my guardian angel, that I should have been killed quite a few times, especially working as an electrician. I should have died a couple times easily. And but I didn't. And I got COVID last year really bad. I never visited the hospital, I just stayed home, and I knew the Lord had me, had no lung issues. I was very sick for about 3 to 4 weeks, and he brought me out of it, healthy as a horse. So I
Wow,
think
amen.
faith is important, faith is very important. So so I hope I answered that
No,
piece of
you did because
Chaplain.
no, you absolutely did because you said something that I wanted to answer that was powerful too. Because you said when you were going to the mission on Sundays, it was like church. What do you say to people that continually, some people are looking for their purpose in God, in a building, in a title, organization. They're looking at it, and they got so many gifts and things. What are people, the question I like to ask people, what are you doing with what God has given you? So, what do you tell people? Can you just speak really quickly? Or what do you tell people who are looking for church in a building? And like you said this mission, going out, doing something, sharing. What do you say to people who are looking for church? Or we're always looking for God in the building. We're always looking for purpose in the building. We're always looking for it in an organization. What do you say to them concerning having faith and going out and doing what the Lord has told them to do?
Well, I think I think a lot of us get caught up, no matter what profession, no matter what our calling is. We get caught up in competition, and I have this title, "The Spirit of Competition," and
Mm.
music is not necessarily competitive. It doesn't need to be. It's there's so many genres, there's so many different takes, and we as followers of the Lord who are down here trying to serve, we get caught up in titles. I don't personally, I don't like titles. I like to be just James doing his job. And I don't like, competition and going up against, having these contests all the time. I just think it's to me, there's a place for it, but people get so wrapped up in their own egotistical desires that they forget about the mission. And, the mission should be, what am I doing for my, fellow human being? And there's real simple things you can do. And I actually thank the Lord for this little situation he put me in. I was on a plane recently, and I was coming back from, I was coming back from Nashville to New Jersey. And I remember there was, they were going around the plane with drinks. And about 3 seats up and to my left, there was this woman with, and she had a little girl with her, and I think her husband or whatever. And there was some language barrier. She couldn't understand. And they're saying, no, we don't take cash. You have to have a credit card. Well, she had no credit card. So the lady goes through the plane, and she finally comes to me and comes back. And, and I said, listen, that woman over there with the little girl, I said, just give her what she wants and put it on my credit card, would you please? And don't tell her, don't make a big deal. And she said, oh, that is so nice. I was going to do that and give him something complimentary. And I said, oh, that's great. But I said, I'm happy to do it. Because she didn't have, she just had cash. I mean, she wanted to pay, but this is a little tiny thing. So I think as human beings who are, and we see some of these on Facebook or social media, and I love seeing this when people are doing things for others. And you don't have to go around and fly the flag of, hey, I'm the best guy in the world. I'm just saying
Right,
it as an
right.
example. Like, here's another little one. I like to do this when I go food shopping. I park as far away as I can. And people have said to me, why are you parking way out here? I said, because there's a lot of elderly people who need the spots that are close to the store. I said, I got 2 good legs. I said, I'm happy to take the walk, It's not gonna kill me so there's little things that we can do to stop and just help people out each day. And I think a lot of us have a good heart, but we need to just be reminded to wake up and say, look around you and just see, can you just stop and say, hey, are you all right? Are you catching your breath? Or do you need medical assistance? And a lot of us just walk right by and do nothing because we're so caught up in our own day-to-day
Right.
life. So
Caught up in
that's
us.
something, yeah, that's something I just I just feel is important is we were put here because this young fella next to me, he had the headphones on. He was rapping, and he goes, "Hey man, that was so solid what you did." And I just said to him, God put us here to help each other,
Right. Right.
and that's what it's all about.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So now I'm gonna go to the podcast. You say you work with artists. Can you talk about your podcast and the name of it, how we got started, and what you do with your podcast?
Okay, the podcast is called Dharmic Evolution, and most people look at the way it's spelled and say Dharma Harmic. What is that? Dharmic, and so it's DHARMIC evolution. And if you look in the dictionary, there is no such word. So I invented my own word. So I'm taking full credit for that. And and Webster's is probably going to send me hate mail, but it's too bad. It's too late. So the Dharma, I was into yoga for many years, 15 years, a hot yogi. Love it. And when the pandemic hit, my fiance is a runner. So she trained me to be a runner. She's done all the marathons multiple times. So I said, okay, I can't sit around. I need to do something. So my past yoga experience, when you're in your Dharma, you're kind of in your right place. And your Dharma is something you should aspire to live your highest self. So the logo of the podcast is this beautiful tree with all these flowers out in the middle of nowhere with all these bright, beautiful colors around it. And I think that's what mankind is supposed to aspire to be, is that maturity, that constantly growing, getting roots in the ground, getting stronger, getting vibrant, more beautiful
Right.
colors. And so Dharmic evolution is like, I have a lot of people in India that follow it because they say Dharmic. Oh, I got to go check this guy out. And they find out I'm a Christian, say, what is this going on? So, so it's another one. I slid one under the rug again there, Chaplain. And it's something I wanted to do is help these indie singer-songwriters who are very, very good just get a little extra platform under the legs and have me promote them. And I also got into authors, speakers, and thought leaders who can bring something to these young aspiring musicians as far as whether it's social media, whether it's coaching, whether it's life coaching or whatever it is, as long as I can bring value into the show to try to, inspire people, help people, and get their music out there. There's some really kick butt music out there of these, these writers, just because they're not tops of the pops, they're just as good. They just haven't hit their stride as far as getting into the marketplace in a big way yet. So I'm happy to do that. I don't look for big stars on my show ever. I'm always looking for the ones who are working hard and on their way up, who are really, really good, who are just, getting there. So I've developed all these friendships with people all over the world. I mean, in London and Ireland, South Africa, in Oslo, and you name it, I've had him on the show. And it's just it's a privilege to have that ongoing friendship, even though we might not talk for another year. Or they catch my my email newsletter or something, but I do stay in touch with a lot of them. So it's a great privilege to do this show.
So, and this will be as we're going to the end here, because I try to ask some questions about the music industry and about your background in music, your experience, and it seems like music is incorporated in everything that you do. And I just absolutely love the platform. For people that are watching right now, please look at the bottom. You can contact James, and there is the website that is at the bottom, and his email is also down there as well. So, James, tie all this in for me. At the end of the day, everything you do in your relationship with Jesus, and speak to somebody, as somebody might watch this, maybe young, and I'm using the term young, right? Because people, like you said, some people think that they're going to be here forever.
Right.
Be here forever. Can you encourage someone? Can you speak to the fact that we need to find purpose in God? Like what does it all mean? If somebody's watching this, okay. I'm listening music. I'm an artist. I like music. I like to play it. It makes me feel well. People go through life. They have their valley situations. How does Jesus fit into the life of the musician? How does Jesus fit into the life of having ups and downs? How does Jesus fit into all of this? Can you tie it all in and encourage somebody who may watch this afternoon, and just help them.
Well, I can speak from my own experience of you have to find out like what drives you. And for me, it took such a long time. As a youngster, of course, I wanted to be a pop star and wanted to do all the things that, the Who was doing or, Led Zeppelin was doing. And that was really not the path for me. And it took me such a long time to figure out that you know what? I have a different purpose, and all of our purposes are so unique. So I think you have to keep asking the question and ask it often. Like, what gives you the most joy? Where do you feel like you're in the right place? And for me, it's serving, and it's serving the Lord. Really, it's serving Jesus. It's like when we did that album, I Am Victorious. That's when I felt like, this is my calling. I'm in here with these great studio musicians, and we're creating this incredible music. It's not my music, though. It's the Lord's music. This is his story. So I was kind of a vessel for that. And I do write my own music, but it all comes from God. All the best songs, they come from the Lord. And what you have to do is honor that journey. And if you're honored with a song, that's a true blessing to have that, to be given that, to be given the opportunity to create, that's the ultimate compliment because, who and what is the greatest creator in the universe? And that's God. So he allowed us to have the gift that he has, on a tiny little scale. However, it's really where we sit. It's a big scale. So if you want to be like, the tops of the best, singer, songwriter, whatever, you go for that and you do it with purpose and what's in your heart. And every journey will look different. You can't really compare yourself. I mean, we're taught over and over in the Bible, don't ever compare yourself to someone else because you're gonna have heartache. You're not wired to be anybody but you. And we are just like snowflakes or raindrops. No two are alike ever. So you have to get used to that fact that you have a very, very special purpose and you have certain blessings that no one else has. And it's very humbling to see some of these stories out there. Like they put him on the Olympics. There's this guy jumping in the water. He's got one arm and one leg, and he's a championship swimmer. He's a two-time gold medalist. And I saw one this with this woman who had this young child who had no arms and no legs, and he's on the playground, and he's going up the stairs of the slide with no arms and no legs and throwing himself down the slide, and the mother's picking him up, and the two of them are laughing hysterically, like with pure joy
Right,
because
right,
it's like nobody told him he can't do that. And so it's like I saw that and I'm like, and I'm in a bad mood. Are you kidding?
right.
So I think we have to like stop and recognize the blessings that we have. And we see so many people do so much with so little that we can't make excuses. So you got to find if you have that spark going, you're a musician, if you're whatever you are in that, just please appreciate the gift that you've been given because some people want to do that. And for whatever reason, they can't because that's not their blessing. Their blessing is something else. So if you have that special gift, man, just hold on to it for all you're worth. Keep doing it. There's no reason to stop. There's no reason to put it on the shelf because I didn't get, the big breaks or whatever. If you're making good music and you're getting better at doing what you're doing, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Okay. And the blessings and the rewards are out there, but they might not be what you think they are. So with that, I just wish everybody would carry that blessing to heart and just enjoy the space you're in.
Amen. Amen. Well, you know what, James? Well, thank you so much for being here. It definitely, and I love the fact you have a heart for musicians, right? You seem like you have a heart for artists and you have a heart for musicians and to kind of lead them and help them and guide them through this journey so that they can best use their gift. Because it is important. I believe, and you've said it's important that we identify our gifts if God has given us gifts and talents and that we use them purposefully while we are here in the land of the living. Do you have
Yes.
any last words for us before we go, James? And thank you again so much for being here. Any last words before we go?
Yes, I just want to wish you, Chaplain Calvin, all of the blessings that God can manifest on you, your ministry, your family, your show. And thank you so much for inviting me today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Awesome. Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome. Amen. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in to the show on this afternoon. I know it was a small show, and hopefully, my apologies for that because I got to bounce out to the college, but I knew it was a short show, but it was powerful. We talked with Chaplain James Kevin O'Connor. He's had some ups and downs in life. He's a musician, Chaplain, a songwriter, and hopefully we can get him back and share some of the videos and share some more of what he's done in his life work. And we had a request here, James. For before we go, what was it? It was what was it? It was for someone said please talk about English Bob and his mental health project. So that was so I don't know what that is, and maybe that's something.
English Bob is a character I created, and you'll be seeing a lot of him on social media, and that's we could do a whole story on my alter ego characters. We'll do that next time.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll get out. Thank you so much for being here once again. People, thank you for tuning in. Please share if this blessed you on tonight. This has been a strategically prophetic interview. I'm your host, Calvin Ward. Be blessed, and please share the video if you got something from it. Thanks for tuning in.